What's up guys, C2113 here, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you my full review of the ECOBOXX EB150P portable power station. Alright guys, so this is my review of the ECOBOXX EB150P. Now this, in case you haven't seen the original video, you can click the card above to see the unboxing and overview video, but I've had this for quite a while now, so I think it's finally time for me to give you guys my full thoughts. Now, I do have a tendency to get disorganized with my thoughts, so to keep things a little bit more structured and to hopefully cover everything I want to say, I will be referencing some notes off screen, and I'm also going to generally keep things in one of two categories, either pro or a con. However, if there's other sort of neutral points or just things to know, I'll also comment on those as well, and I'll bring them up as needed as I think of them. But anyway, first let's get into the pros of this unit. So the size for the capacity on this thing is quite good. So if you look at the back here, it's 146.52 watt hours. In other words, basically 150 watt hours. So for 150 watt hours, this is quite a small package, especially given all the features. You've got your 120 watt output inverter, you've got 3 USB ports, you've got a 12 volt output port, which you do need an adapter for, but it is there. You have your wireless charging pad, which is capable of 10 watts of wireless charging. You've got your Type-C cable, which is capable of 60 watts input and output. And of course, you got your charging port, and you even have a nice display here that shows you both input and output, as well as any errors and the battery voltage. So a lot is packed into a small package, and it's something that I think is quite nice. The other thing I like about it is I like the look, honestly. You know, it's not going to win any minimalist Apple design awards, but as far as being a utilitarian but sort of industrial look, I do like it. This brushed metal is nice. It's a nice touch here, and the fact that it's plastic, although some might see this as a downside, I do actually prefer that, being that if it was made from, let's say, some sort of aluminum or something like that, it would be much heavier. And especially given the size of this battery in terms of capacity, that would really get this up in weight, and I think it does better being lighter than it does being sort of made from aluminum. The other thing I like is the light. So the fact that this has the light on there is just a small benefit, and some people might think it's absolutely useless, but I think in the situations where you might want to use this, if there's a power outage or you're in a dark hotel room trying to plug this into a wall or something like that, having a light just built into the unit just adds functionality, right? You may only need it once. I know I've said this before, you may only need it once, but that once or twice that you need it, you're really glad you had it. So I do like the light. The other thing I like is the USB-C power delivery. The fact that you can charge things at 60 watts as well as charge this unit at 60 watts really makes it a more compelling option, especially since you can charge it at 60 watts using USB-C, right? Of course, they could have built some generic, barrel adapter like this and enabled it to charge at 60 watts. But do you really want to have to remember to bring some generic proprietary barrel adapter charger with you everywhere? Or would you rather just have a USB-C charging brick and a USB-C to USB-C cable and just charge it that way? Especially since if the charger breaks, no sweat, you just buy another one. If that proprietary adapter breaks, well, then you're out looking for an equivalent output adapter, and then you're doing some home soldering, and then, well, you might have a bad time if you're not good at soldering. So the point is, it just makes things so much easier to have that universality of the USB-C port. The other thing I like is you got 3 USBs here. Now, they aren't quick charge at all, and we'll go into that in the cons, but the fact that you have 3 ports means, hey, you got more power to go around. So if you got multiple devices you need to plug in, it's not going to be a problem. You have your USB-C port, and you have these 3 ports as well. The other thing I like has to do with the USB-C port again, and that's pass-through charging. So even using this USB-C port, not just the barrel plug, you can use the USB-C port to charge the unit, and then use these 3 USBs to charge other devices, even use the AC adapter. Now, obviously, if you draw more than 60 watts out of the unit at once, then the battery's not going to charge, but it doesn't matter. Even if you draw more than 60 watts out of the unit, then you're putting in through USB-C, the battery will drain slower, and then let's say one of those things that you're charging finishes charging and then lowers in draw, then the battery inside the unit will actually begin charging again. And so the fact that you can just set it and forget it, plug in your USB-C charger or plug in your AC adapter for the barrel plug, doesn't matter. You can set it and forget it and then charge your other devices off of this one unit. And so that makes somebody that's going to use this for traveling, it makes things a lot easier, a lot simpler. So I do like that aspect of it. The other thing I like is the wireless charger. You know, I didn't think I was going to use it as much as I did, but I actually got quite a bit of use out of it. So like, let's say I take this with me somewhere and then I set it down. If I'm doing some other work with me, then I'll just throw my phone on there and then it'll be good to go. I won't have to worry about it. And if I'm using the AC adapter to charge some other device, or I'm using USB ports to charge something else, oftentimes I won't need to pick up my phone for a while, and not having to take up one of these USB ports or the USB-C port to charge the phone makes things a lot easier. So it frees up this USB-C port to charge the unit with, and it also frees these USB ports here to charge other devices. So the wireless charger is a great feature. The other thing I want to say in terms of an internal thing is the fan. So the fan, it's a pro and a con, and we'll get into the con of it later on. But in terms of a pro, it's really not very loud. In fact, it's quite quiet. So as far as little power stations that do have active ventilation, this is quite an unobtrusive fan. And so never once did I feel like, man, this thing is blowing really loud. It's so loud I can't think. So no, this thing is pretty quiet when it comes to a fan. And so that's something that I really did like. It provided the ventilation that it needed, but it didn't make things super, super loud, and that's something that I can definitely appreciate. And the last thing I want to say that's a positive is the price. So depending on when you bought this or when you'll buy it in the future, there could be a little coupon that makes it a little cheaper, but generally you can find this for under $100. I think I paid $95, but I think right now you might be able to get it for like $87 with a coupon or something like that. But either way, not super expensive. And I think with all the features that are packed into a unit with this size and, you know, cross-sectional area and volume, I really think that this is a compelling option for the price. However, we're now going to get into the cons, and specifically some of the reasons why at this current time I can't recommend it. All right, let's talk about the cons. First, I have to say this is a small gripe, but it is noticeable, and it can be a huge deal breaker for some people that just think it looks cheap because of this, and that is light bleed. So you don't really see much with just the power button illuminated, but if I illuminate this display, hopefully you can see there's light leaking through here. This wireless charging button is partially illuminated because of the backlight of the display. There's no light shielding on the inside. And then if I go ahead and turn on the AC output here, you can see the light bleeds around this button as well, and you know, through the USB ports here as well. So again, some of you guys right now, you're rolling your eyes and you're saying, who the hell cares about, you know, light leakage, right? And I'm there with you. You know, it doesn't really bother me that much. However, some people are going to look at this and they're just going to think it's really cheap, because they're going to say to themselves, man, it looks like garbage. There's light leaking out everywhere, and it wouldn't have cost them much extra to put, you know, just a little bit of shielding inside so that there wasn't just light bleeding all over the place. And I'm also there with you at the same time, because I think it really wouldn't have cost them that much to do that, and it would have raised the bar a lot in terms of perceived quality of their product. The other thing I want to talk about, and this is the downside I mentioned with the fan that I was going to get to, is that every time you turn on the AC output, no matter what, even if there's nothing attached to it, I don't know if you can hear that, the fan comes on at a low speed. Now, maybe there's some limitation there that I'm not understanding, but I would have much preferred fan logic that only activated the fan when the temperature was above the set threshold. So under that threshold, the fan would just stay off, the unit would be silent, and only after the determined temperature was reached, then the fan comes on. And that's how most, for example, computers work and that sort of thing. And so to me, it just seems like a wasted opportunity to make this unit more silent. So while the fan itself is not very obtrusive in volume or anything like that, the fact that it comes on all the time whenever you have the AC output on is a little bit annoying. So I wish they could make this unit silent. But again, by far not the deal breaker. The thing I also talked about with the USB-C port, and this is true of both ports actually when it comes to pass-through charging. I did notice that, let's say you plug it in and you charge it to 100%, and it shows no more input, it's fully charged. Well, if you then draw power from it, i.e. turn the AC inverter on, or draw from the USB-C or any of the other ports, or turn the wireless charger on, the battery will start to drain quite a bit before the unit actually kicks on the charger again, the internal charger, to recharge the battery. And as a result, the battery voltage will drop quite a bit before the charger kicks in to allow pass-through charging again. Now, with most other solar generators / power stations that have pass-through charging, even if they're fully charged, as soon as you draw a significant load, the charger immediately kicks in and basically passes through that power directly to that load. So you're circumventing the battery, so you're not cycling the battery at all. However, this unit, the logic doesn't seem quite as good, and as a result, the battery will have to drain by a set amount before the charger will kick in again and actually recharge the internal battery. And so, again, while it seems like a small gripe, it's annoying in a couple of ways. Number one, if you want the unit to be fully charged before you head out for the day and the next day or whatever, and then one of your devices suddenly kicks on again in the middle of the night and draws more power, you might wake up with a less than 100% full battery. And so that is obviously a downside. Now, it won't be much, but it's still going to be a factor. Number two, however small it is, it's still cycling the battery. So even though it's a small depth of discharge, it's still cycling a battery. No matter how small or large, right, every drawdown and recharge of any capacity of the battery is going to reduce the lifespan of the battery. That's just how batteries work. And so to me, that seems like a missed opportunity there to improve the logic so that it would just directly pass that power through. If other solar generators and power stations can do this, there's no reason why this one can't either. So that's that. The other thing I'd say in terms of the USB-C port is probably just that there's only one. So I would happily give up one of these USB-A's for another USB-C, even if it wasn't an input port. That way I could charge using USB-C while also discharging to a device using USB-C. So that's that. The other thing with the USB-A's, no quick charge 3.0. You know, we're in a day and age at this point where pretty much every smartphone that isn't an iPhone has quick charge, minimum quick charge 3.0 enabled, and some of them have much higher protocols. And so the fact that there is no dedicated quick charge port means even if you've got a phone that can charge lightning fast, if you're using the USB-C port to either recharge this or to charge another device, then you're stuck with that same slow 1 to 2 amp charging that's going to come out of your standard USB-A. So I would love to see one of these be a USB quick charge port instead of just a standard USB-A port. The 12 volt port, you know, we talked about this in the unboxing and testing, but this isn't a regulated port. Not the end of the world, but again, if this is going to be advertised for people to use with CPAPs and that sort of thing and DC powered devices, that really makes it quite useless for that usage, because when you're past 25% discharged in terms of capacity, the voltage drops below a usable level and you're basically stuck with the rest of the capacity that you can't use. And so then you'll be forced to use a much less efficient AC adapter as opposed to a direct DC to DC adapter. But now we're going to get to kind of a potential deal breaker for a lot of people. And it is actually a deal breaker for me just because I do depend on it and it is a feature I paid extra for. And that is the wireless charger is broken. And you know what? I was willing to give them initially a pass on it. Maybe I just got a bad unit, but it seems like it's not a fluke. There's been tons of people that have had the same issue, and myself included. So the way it broke, or the way it stopped working for me, was when you normally turn the wireless charger on, you press this button. The button will illuminate green for about a second, and then it will shut off, and then you'll see the little wireless charging emblem there, and then when you put your phone on there, it'll automatically detect this, will illuminate green, and your phone will start charging. But you can see here, nothing is happening with my phone, and that is because the wireless charging pad or coil or something. Now, obviously, I haven't opened this thing up to diagnose it because, well, that wouldn't make it very easy to return if I had opened it up and in any way tampered or damaged the device. So I'm gonna just return it since it's still within my return window. But that ultimately, combined with other people's issues and my own experience with the failure of this wireless charging pad, makes me very hesitant to recommend this unit. Now, it could just be that, right? And if you honestly don't care about the wireless charging pad, then maybe this unit will work for you, since everything else I've tested thoroughly and had no issues with. But if the wireless charging pad is at all a feature you think you might use, then I don't think I can recommend this unit. However, at the end of the day, if this is something that you're interested, I'll also leave a link for the EB150S, the slower USB-C charging, non-wireless charging equipped model of this, which is pretty much the same capacity. It just doesn't have the super fast charging on USB-C. However, it does have a quick charge port on the USB-A, and it doesn't have wireless charging. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to save the money, you can go with that one. That one is usually a little cheaper, although I think right now it's actually more expensive by a couple dollars. So really, you have to make the call there. I think if this is something that you're actually interested in and you just don't really care about wireless charging, then you'd be good to go to just buy this one, because right now I think the price is pretty much on par, and it doesn't really affect you whether or not this coil works. But like I said, if you take into account all the other things that I mentioned, the pros, the cons, the meh part of it, everything, and this is looking like something that you're interested in, I'll leave the links in the description. I'll also leave links to Abunda if for some reason you want to pay in installments or you don't have all the money on hand at once to pay for it. Definitely check out Abunda. But as always, guys, if you liked the video, please give me a like. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, or your own experiences with the EB150P, definitely let me know. I want to know if this wireless charging pad failure is a common issue, and if there are other issues as well that actually might be common that I just got lucky and didn't experience. And as always, if you want to see more, don't forget to get subscribed.